Survive and Advance on the Grizzly Crew Sports Network. I'm your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, 1981 national champion, and generally just an all-around great guy, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, Mike. How you doing, buddy? I don't want to excite you today because you sound like you're just in a really doggy downer today, so I don't want to get you too excited today.
Sitting here, I got a big smile on my face.
Well, we were in our production meeting, and you were like kind of just hurrying things along and not letting us have some fun and warm up and get talking. You know, for some of us, we get up in the morning, and this is the first thing we do. We haven't had all day to fight with our wives and take out the trash and take our dogs for a dump or something like that. You get out of bed, you come, you sit down, you read the sports pages, you find out what the scores are, and you come in the show. You kind of want to get a little excited and get warmed up in the pregame. But, you know, you just want to go play. You're one of those guys, those athletes, that doesn't think they have to practice. You think, I can get it right every time I go out and play. And that's why you coach arena football.
Not anymore. I decided not
to. So you can't even do that anymore because you don't practice.
Because I didn't want to. Because I don't like to practice.
That's why you're not coaching arena football.
Because I choose not to.
Or he chooses not to have you.
You're retired, which means you don't do anything anyway.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
old age
did
sucks.
All this last night. But also, the show starts at noon. And I figure when it gets to 11:59, maybe it's time to shut Risley up so we can start the show on time.
I had to get through episode 2 of America's Got Talent. They made a terrible pick for the person to go through. It was the worst passable talent they had. It was awful.
It's sad.
I'm extremely disappointed in that show.
And watching reality TV like that.
Well, it is what it is.
But
Mike.
Then again, when you look at it, you can't really look at the History Channel or something because you lived through everything that happened.
I watched the first U.S. submarine ever to sink on History Channel. I watched the sinking of the Lusitania last night from the History Channel. I watched greatest shipwrecks of all time. I watched airline disasters, all from the History and Smithsonian Channel. I watched that till about 3:30 in the morning last night. All those shows. I went to bed, laid in bed, and watched all the shows.
I'll tell you what, you live a very exciting life, it sounds like, Steve.
No, I'm just trying to get educated, trying to learn something about more than other than just basketball.
Yeah, but when you get as old as you are, isn't it a little bit too late to get educated?
Never too late to learn. See, that's your problem. Right. It's never too late to learn.
So, we're going to talk a little college basketball. We got a lot to talk about from the last week, especially last night. And I want to welcome Brian Rauf from fansided. Brian Rauf from fansided and Busting Brackets.
I can't even get that right.
Brian. You know what? This is the thing. Let Brian speak.
I'm doing great. I figured Steve, had time to do all these things, was in a good mood because, it's 70 and sunny where he is.
Yeah.
No, actually it's not. It's about 58 degrees of pouring freaking down rain here. And these idiots in California do not know how to drive in the rain. You get the world gets wet, and these people start hitting everybody like there's no tomorrow. Now, what I figured out is they build the roads so poorly out here that they don't put drainage systems in the roads like they do in the Midwest because it never rains out here. So there's just puddles of water. You drive down the middle of the interstate. We were going down the 405 yesterday, and it's like there was a 3-inch deep lake across the interstate, and people hitting it at 70 miles an hour. And I watched a car spin out right in front of me, into the wall, boom. Looked like Mario Andretti. I swear to God, just anytime he takes a turn, boom, into the wall. Andretti is slowing down. I'm gonna get you in a good mood, Mike. I don't care.
I'm already in a good mood. I mean, I'm just wondering why you're just rattling off the head when we got a guest who has things to say and probably knows a lot more than you because he probably spent the night watching college basketball instead of America's Got Talent. Brian, is Duke in trouble? And I ask that not because they lost to Syracuse. I ask it because whenever you lose a guy like Trey Jones and he's basically the captain of the ship, where do they go from here?
I don't necessarily think Duke's in trouble, but they're in as much trouble as Duke, I think, could be because Trey Jones is the key to their defense, the key to their offense. I mean, you've heard people talk ad nauseum this year about how he's the most important player on Duke's team, which he is, and Duke has talent to overcome missing him. But just with the stretch they have coming up, their next 6 games are all against pretty good competition, with the exception of, I think, 1 game against Georgia Tech. So they're going to get tested in the stretch coming up here, starting with Saturday against Virginia, and to try and make someone else a point guard who's not a point guard is going to be an interesting task for them to handle.
Yeah, and they lose to Syracuse last night, 95-91. And by trouble, I meant this: is this still a national championship contender without Trey Jones? Where did they go? I mean, what do they do at the point right now?
I don't think they're. I think they could make the Final Four without Trey Jones, depending on how things fell, of course. But I don't think they would be a legitimate championship caliber team without him. And we can just look on the defensive side, where Syracuse is a team that for the whole year has struggled to put up 70, and then struggled last night as well the first part of the game. Then Trey Jones got hurt, and so they end up with 95 points. And that's not a. There's a reason that happened. It's because Trey Jones went out. Duke's defense completely changed when that happened.
What's wrong, Steve? You sighed. Oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
You're supposed to say Duke's got talent.
Who, me?
Duke doesn't.
Yeah, because
Duke doesn't.
Yeah.
Steve doesn't have
Well,
talent.
how long is Trey Jones out for?
Indefinite.
It's indefinitely right now, but it's probably going to be a couple of weeks.
Okay, all right. So you guys, I swear to God, you guys are like guys. Do you know who Irwin Allen is? Any of you know who Irwin Allen was? He's the film producer that made Earthquake, Titanic, Earthquake, Airport, made all the great disaster movies. You guys are fabricating crap here.
Disaster movie? Are you?
Yeah, did you ever watch it? Dean Martin?
Oh, I was thinking of Airplane. That was a great movie.
No, that was a spoof on Airport. That was actually a spoof on Airport. But anyway,
yeah, I know. But
you guys, he's out 2 weeks. He's out 2 weeks. The Duke right now Duke is the New England Patriots of college basketball.
No, they're not.
You don't screw with them in the playoffs.
They're not. That's stupid.
Well, you're saying they're not a national championship contender. Are you kidding me?
No, what I'm saying is this. The Patriots aren't a Super Bowl contender. The Patriots are usually in the Super Bowl. Duke's usually not in the Final Four anymore, are they? I mean, in the last 15 years, how many times have they been in the Final Four, Steve? Since you're our college basketball guru, let us know.
I would get more times probably in the last 50 years. They've been there more times than they haven't been there.
I don't believe that.
I'm sure you'll Google it and prove me wrong, but you know.
Yeah, because you're wrong. Because Mike
say that Duke is no longer a national championship contender is kind of like saying I'm not.
Nobody said that they were no longer a national championship contender.
Brian just did. He said maybe a Final Four.
Yeah.
Well, that's without Trey Jones.
But he's going to be back in 2 weeks.
We don't know that.
Assuming he does come back, they are back to being a championship contender. But if this is something that's more serious and keeps him out for a while, then I don't think.
Well, how about this?
What
about Deron Davis?
Deron
Davis was supposed to be healthy at the start of the year, and the injury lingered on. So really, I know you're Dr. Risley because you used to talk to a lot of doctors, but injuries sometimes take longer, sometimes shorter than people think to heal. The question is, how much trouble are they in right now? Let's assume he's going to be back at
full strength by tournament time. Let's assume he's going to be back full strength by tournament time.
But this is the thing. Maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Brian, but with Virginia and a few other teams in here, this could take, even 2 weeks, could knock Duke from being a number 1 seed to a number 2 or a 3, and there is a big difference between that.
You know, and that's the whole crap of the seeding. It doesn't matter, because it only matters how you're playing when the tournament starts. It doesn't matter.
No,
we were not a number 1 seed when we won. We were a number 3 seed in our region.
The thing that
we
matters,
were not a number 1 seed.
Wait a second. The thing that matters is how well you're playing at that point. And if you're missing one of your best players for a few weeks leading into it, maybe you're not going to play as well because you don't have the.
We're in January. The tournament doesn't start till March.
Once again, we don't know when he's hurt, and that is only what?
Well, I only went by what you guys told me. You said 2 weeks. I think it's ludicrous to say that Duke's not a national championship contender.
I never said 2 weeks.
I said I still think Duke is the best team in college basketball.
Well,
they're injured right now. They're down a little bit. They got a flat tire. They'll put a new tire on it, and they'll retread. They've got the best coach in college basketball.
No,
and there's no way that team's not going to be a challenger for the national championship come April 1 or April 3, whenever the championship game is, wherever they're playing it this year.
Were they in the Final Four last year?
Go back to the Duke game.
Talk about it. Well, I'm done talking about the Duke game. Now, my next question is right down the street from Duke. Do you want to talk about the Duke game? We just spent 10 minutes talking about the Duke game. Well, you might as well.
It's the biggest upset of the year so far.
No, it's not. Syracuse beating Duke is not the biggest upset of the year. No,
Mike, you have to remember, UMBC beat Virginia last year.
Okay, that's not what I'm talking about, but you like to be a smartass, so. But I don't think it's the biggest upset of the year. Syracuse.
What's the biggest upset of the year?
Syracuse did this
Maryland
last year
or
to Duke, I believe.
Nebraska beating IU?
No, that's not an upset. Nebraska's a better team.
Okay. I agree with that one.
But I guarantee if we look around here, we can find a bigger upset. Brian, was last night the biggest upset of the year?
No, I'm trying to rack my brain. I know last week ECU beat.
Well, if you got to rack your brain, that means you're manufacturing something.
Well, no,
so
because he just said,
guys.
I'm racking my brain, and East Carolina beats Cincinnati.
And ECU is terrible.
Yes, and UC is probably a fringe top 25 team. That's a bigger upset than Jim
and not a
Boeheim
national
and
championship
Syracuse
contender.
Duke.
Cincinnati's not a national championship contender.
Well, no, I mean of the championship contenders, but you didn't specify that.
Oh, okay.
You said it was the
Excuse me.
biggest
You're
upset
right.
of the
You're right.
year.
You're right.
You said it was the biggest upset of the year.
Eric Ebron set the record for tight ends wearing blue shoestrings in his white Nikes, for most receptions ever by tight end wearing blue shoestrings and white Nikes. He holds the NFL record for that.
Yeah.
Good
job.
job.
That worked out. He got beat. Your Colts got beat.
Exactly.
Get over it, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, let's go down the road a little bit to North Carolina. Now, North Carolina played Louisville this past weekend, and Louisville destroyed them 83-62.
Oh.
I believe Mr. Rauf here predicted North Carolina to win the national title.
I did at the beginning of the year.
What's wrong at North Carolina? Because what I see as wrong as North Carolina, just my quick opinion, they just don't play that hard. They're not very physical, and they remind me of Indiana a little bit.
And that was very obvious in that Louisville game, was the fact that Louisville wanted that game a hell of a lot more than UNC wanted that game. And they took it to them from start to finish, and UNC looked like they didn't want to be there, which is, to your point, a bigger problem with UNC this year. Not that they don't necessarily play hard or give their all, but they've been a team under Roy Williams throughout the entire time Roy Williams has been there that has relied on dominating the glass and being physical and getting offensive rebounds and getting extra possessions that way. Well, this year they're smaller, and so Roy Williams has kind of fought going smaller. He's kind of kept some big men on the floor, but they're not great. Garrison Brooks and Sterling Manley have not played well this year. They're two main big guys, and are struggling on the glass. They're still ranked. They still rank, I think, in top 50 in the country in rebounding, but they're not in the top 5, top 3, number 1 like they have been. And so that's a major edge that they've had in the past that they don't have this year. And you add in the fact that all of their shooters are also kind of in season-long slumps to this point. You have a recipe for a team that just doesn't quite look right now.
All right. Steve, do you have anything to add to this conversation, or are you just going to sit there?
No, I think it's I'm wondering if it's just Roy Williams. I mean, just if his heart and soul's into this anymore, coaching his team to the point where, I mean, coaches get old and stuff gets old for them too. You know, I watched it happen with Knight where he just wasn't as effective as a coach down the road. You know, it gets monotonous and repetitious for them too. And I don't know if Roy Williams is getting to that point or not, because it seems like North Carolina's been on a very slow decline, very slight slow decline for a number of years. They seem to just continue to drop, you know, altitude-wise, just maybe a foot at a time, 2 feet at a time. But I haven't seen a big uptick in North Carolina in quite a while. So I don't know if it's just that's the case. And, you know, there's other younger, more aggressive coaches out there recruiting players. There's more parity. There's more opportunities at other universities. Other colleges with TV packages are getting the same kind of face time as kids that want to try and get in the NBA and things. I just don't know if North Carolina is becoming kind of an Indiana, like you said, Mike, kind of like a relic.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
In my opinion, Roy could certainly be on the decline. It would not be a surprise at all, considering his age. I think that this year specifically, though, it has more to do with the makeup of their roster, because they're used to having a whole bunch of big guys and playing a certain style. And this year, he has more of a, due to some guys who left early and just kind of who he has this year, the roster is more perimeter-oriented and built for playing small, which he's not used to. And I think he's done a terrible job making that adjustment. Yeah,
that was Knight's demise. Knight would never leave his is faithful in the fact that it was motion offense and man-to-man defense. He would never change, and the game changes. I mean, the paradigm shifts occur, and if you don't make a paradigm shift with the change of the game, then you're left behind. And that's what kind of, in a nutshell, what happened tonight. And then all of our reporting at night became more on his antics than his victories, and that was what killed him.
Yeah, I still think Roy could have success.
Sure.
He's got a couple big men. He's got a couple big men coming in next year. So I think once he kind of adds back that kind of portion of the roster and replenishes the front court a little bit, we could see them have success playing that same way. I just don't think that this roster that he had for this year, that this roster is built to win that way, and he's having trouble adjusting to playing a different style than what he normally is used to.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Steve, do you know what the word paradigm means?
Paradigm, yeah. It means the evolving markets coming out and making speed. The paradigm is a change in market structure, market attitude, or cultural changes in the attitude. You have to stay in front of them. As the culture changes in any kind of business or any kind of sport, if you're not staying with it or staying a step ahead of the paradigm change, then you're going to be behind because the shift will move without you, and then you'll be playing catch-up.
So now, the big question is this. Can you spell it?
Paradigm.
Okay, you looked it up. All right.
No. I was trained on the paradigm shift. I worked for Pfizer for 25 years. That's why we became the number 8 pharmaceutical company in the United States to the number 1 pharmaceutical company in the world because we did paradigm shifts.
We focused on nothing but paradigm shifts. So you were number 8 in the world.
In the United States.
Wait, you were number 8 in the United States and number 1
in the world. When I started with Pfizer in 1985, we were number 8 in the United States, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. By the time I retired from Pfizer in 2009, we were the number 1 global pharmaceutical company in the world.
So what you're doing is you're saying is probably because of you?
No,
well,
absolutely not because of me.
I know.
No, I'm not going to say that. No, yeah. But our leaders understood the role of paradigm shifts and said we have to get ahead of these changes.
So they
made sure be the first one to make the changes.
That they were the first one to get to the congressmen and everything to pay them off to get that going. All right.
If that's what is entailed in that industry, you're probably right. Just like Duke buys its basketball players.
It's sad.
Okay, it's the same damn thing. Duke's got the paradigm shift down. They learned how to. They've made a paradigm shift. Learned how to buy basketball players without getting caught. They made a great paradigm shift.
All right. That is the opinion of one Steve Risley, not the grueling truth. Steve Risley speaks for himself. Next up, star sophomore, Bruno Fernando. 5-star freshman.
And like you don't
Jalen
agree
Smith.
with me.
About what?
About nothing. Go ahead and move on.
Well, I don't know. I think there are large factors that indicate it's possible, but until you have proof, you don't really know. Next up, let's talk about Maryland.
Hey, Mike, there's an old saying. If it looks like shit and it smells like shit, it's probably shit.
Okay, Risley. Well, whenever I got to poop now, I always tell my wife, hey, I got to go take a Risley. All right, next up, Bruno Fernando, Jalen Smith have combined for one of the nation's elite front courts.
That was a good one. I like that one.
They
made me laugh.
They destroyed Indiana on the boards Friday night. And then they come up and they beat Wisconsin, who's a very good team last night. Controlled most of the game. Wisconsin made a run at the end, but Maryland held on to win the game. How seriously do we take Maryland? Is Maryland a team that can win the Big Ten, Brian?
I think we need to slow down with the Wisconsin's pretty good talk. They're okay. They're not great.
Oh, I said they were pretty good. Nowhere did I ever say great.
Hey, Brian, don't get on his bad side, Brian. He'll start calling you names too. Be careful. Don't piss Mike off.
Wisconsin to me.
Yeah, but you know what? If I start calling you names, taking a Rauf is a lot cooler than taking a Risley.
I'll take that.
Just think about it. Say, hey, I'll be back in a minute. I got to go take a Rauf.
So you're going to go puke?
No, that's what a Risley is now. Go ahead. Because let's face it, it's not fun to puke. But there's nothing better than taking a big dump in the morning. If you don't take a big dump in the morning, Brian, I know you're not that old yet, Brian, but when you get to be like 40, 50, you'll notice that if you don't take a big healthy dump in the morning, the rest of your day is just crap. I'm right, ain't I, Steve?
You're damn right.
All right. Go ahead,
The three S's in the morning.
Wisconsin just felt kind of fraudulent to me all year. But getting back to Maryland, they're not a team that can win the Big Ten. I think, as we've said before, there's a clear line in the Big Ten with Michigan State at the top, and everybody else kind of in this big pack fighting for third. I think because of the way they've played so far and the teams they've beaten, Maryland certainly has the inside track on being that number 3 team, and they look like that right now. Bruno Fernando has been really, really good and taken a step forward that a lot of people were hoping he was going to take when he decided to come back to school for his sophomore year. And Jalen Smith has added a bit more finesse in the front corner, so they worked out to be kind of a perfect partner for him. And then with Anthony Cowan running the point, they have developed a real good three-headed monster of an attack there. And they have a bunch of young role players as well, but they've all been playing up to their potential, I would say, to this point in the year. My concern with Maryland, as always, is their coaching. Mark Turgeon has a good track record, but also came in the season on a hot seat, and he was that for a reason. He's not great in late game situations, not great at really adjusting on the fly, which we kind of saw in that Wisconsin game last night when Wisconsin started making that run, and Maryland got into kind of stall ball one before they really should have. But of those middle teams, Maryland might have as much talent as any of them, and we're seeing that kind of come to the top because of the way they're playing to those strengths with Fernando and Cowan kind of taking over and hitting some big shots late in games.
All right. Another one I want to talk about. Go ahead.
Can I ask a legitimate question before we go on?
Go ahead.
Brian, speak to the parity here, because Florida State takes Duke to 2 points, right? They're number 11 team. And then Pittsburgh comes out and just dumps Florida State. And Pittsburgh's not ranked on anybody's chart. They're 12-5, 2-2 in the ACC. Does parity just kind of shoot all these rankings in the foot? Because, you got teams like Indiana that are ranked up there. Maryland's not ranked, and all of a sudden they start whopping on everybody. And how legitimate are these rankings? Is it just really somebody's opinion, or is there really any legitimacy to the rankings? Because, Kansas barely hangs on to beat Texas last night, wins by 80-78. There seems to me there's so much parity now with college basketball. Are the rankings really a legitimate source of where people are, or is it just kind of a commercial thing we put out there now to get somebody to read our newspapers or read our polls or what? I don't get it.
No, they're good. This year there's been a lot more parity than I think there has been in years past for a good portion of the country, really. The rankings show where a team is based on going into that week. But because there's so much parity, a lot of that is based on who you played the week before and where you played them, and then who you're playing the following week and where you're playing them, because anybody can beat anybody, and that change, as we've seen in college basketball, especially when you play on the road, that can change in any situation. With regards
but
to...
you see...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish. I have another question for you.
I was going to say, with regards to Florida State and Pitt, I think that was kind of the perfect scenario of two different things. I think Florida State was kind of playing a letdown game after they had put everything in and come so close to beating Duke on Saturday, then traveling all the way up the East Coast and playing Pitt in a half-empty arena. Was a letdown game for them, and I think they played that way. But also, I think a lot of people need to start taking stock in the fact that Pitt might actually be kind of good this year. They beat Florida State. They beat Louisville last week, also at Pitt, before Louisville went and smacked UNC over the weekend. Pitt went on the road in between those on Saturday and played NC State really, really close in Raleigh. And then earlier this year, Pitt only lost by 1 at Iowa. Had a couple other games where they also put forth some good performances. So I think Pitt's kind of one of those teams that you'll be looking around at in late February and saying, does Pitt actually have a chance to make the NCAA tournament? Because
but if they've done that well, why are they not ranked? They've taken all the big teams to task. They've either played them tough, beat them, or lost by just a point, and yet they're not ranked.
Well, you got to remember, Pitt came into the year coming off of last season when they didn't win a game in the ACC. So expectations were not very high, and they did not play a very tough non-conference schedule. So they didn't.
So
really
how
get
do we
a chance
start the
to prove
rankings? Does
themselves
UCLA not
against
start the
anybody.
rankings number 1 every year because they've got 11 national championships? Kentucky number 2, Duke, North Carolina number 3, Indiana number 4. If we're looking at past history and going back and say because what they did last year, really seriously?
Well,
It's like, what are you doing for me now on the rankings? It's like, forget what they did last
Right.
year. I don't care
How
what
about this,
team's
Steve?
reputation
Steve.
is.
Well, because of what they did
No, I
last
have
year.
another. Here's
Because
my
what they did
example.
last
Here's
year-
my example. Here's my example. After the Maryland game, before the Maryland game, Indiana was ranked 28th in the Ken Pong ratings. They lose to Maryland, and they jump to number 23 in the Ken Pong. So now it becomes more valuable. Even though Indiana lost to Maryland, it becomes more valuable to have beaten Indiana than it was before they lost to Maryland. Explain that crap to me.
Well, explain this to me, Steve.
A lot of
Hang
that
on, let him
stuff-
talk, Mike.
Okay, go ahead.
A lot of those analytics have to do with because
Go ahead
they
and
go
interrupt him while
based
he's
on the
talking.
teams you've played, and as other teams do better, that improves your ranking. So that may have had more to do with the fact that one, maybe some of the like that loss to Maryland suddenly is a better loss, which doesn't blemish the resume because Maryland beat them, which added to Maryland's resume. And there's some other teams around the country that also, like Nebraska last night, getting that win. Makes other wins over Nebraska look better.
Yeah.
And so suddenly you can lose, but also move up because past wins that you've had look better. And it's confusing, and I don't necessarily agree with that. That's the
No,
analytics
I understand the
why- in terms
formula.
of why
Ken Pong
things
is
go up and
based solely on statistics because in the Maryland game, Indiana had a great statistical night.
Okay.
They only had 7 turnovers. They shot 56% from the field. They just lost the game by 3 points.
Where's
Other
Pittsburgh
than that,
ranked in your Ken Pom?
Where's who?
Where's Pittsburgh in your
Pittsburgh.
Ken Pom, Steve? 'Cause since you're making the case,
I'm not looking
that
at Ken
Pitt
Pom.
should
I
be in
don't
the
look at
top
Ken Pom.
25. Yeah, but you made the case Pitt should be in the top 25, and you have no clue what they've done this year. So you're making an argument off something that's completely
I don't look
baseless.
at Ken Pom as a valid.
Well, you
measure
know
of
what? What I
how good a
look at as
basketball team
valid
is.
is this. You sit here and complain because Pittsburgh's not ranked. They beat Youngstown State, VMI,
I'm not complaining.
Troy.
I don't
Yeah,
care
you
about
did.
Pittsburgh.
You just bitched about it. You
I just
honestly,
asked
you
how are they
did.
not ranked?
You said, I mean, Pitt does not have the greatest resume in the world.
No,
They knocked off Florida State.
They beat Florida State. Wait a second, though.
They've
taken what? They got a 25-point loss at home to North Carolina. Now, they did beat Colgate. They beat New Orleans, Maryland, Eastern. They lost by 10 to West Virginia, who's not nearly what they normally are. They lost by 1 to freaking Niagara. Maybe look some things up before you make a comment. It's just a nice, I'm just trying to give you a little piece of advice. But Pitt is nowhere near a top 25 team, whether they beat Florida State the other night by 1 or 5,000.
Okay.
All right, I win that. So, next up, my question is...
No, you're too much of an idiot to even argue with. It's
Well,
like,
okay, so make
pick
your
battles,
case for
Mike.
Pitt being a top 25 team.
I'm not having no case for Pitt being a top 25.
No,
I
because
just think
there
the
is no
rankings,
case for
Ken
it.
Pom, everything is BS. In the end, what you're going to end up with is this. Most likely, you're in the Final Four, you're going to end up with Duke, Michigan State, Virginia, and some hot basketball team that's coming in there and playing.
Yeah.
That's probably what it's going to end up being.
Yeah.
I would take that odds over any other pick. You're going to end up with the same 2 or 4 teams in the Final Four because they got great coaches.
Well, they'll be.
I would even throw Villanova back in the mix because Jay Wright's a great coach. He'll figure out how to get his team there. And you'll end up with the same teams and all these Ken Pongs, all this other crap and analytics that goes into this stuff, this weekly AP rankings, UPI rankings, are nothing more than you give us something to talk about on a radio show. That's all it really is.
Bitching about.
In the end, it doesn't matter. You have a great basketball coach. You got good talent. You're most likely going to get there. That's why Tom Izzo puts his teams in the Final Four with more crap than most other any other college other than Michigan State. Duke's always there. They're always in the hunt. Virginia's going to be there now. They got to get good. Villanova wins with Jay Wright, a great basketball coach. There'll be some other team that'll get hot and come in here and jump in with those guys. And it may not be those exact 4, but in the end, that's what it's going to be. So go talk about all your rankings, your Ken Pons, and all your
What I would
crap
talk
like
about
that,
is this.
and
The
bring
thing
it
that's
on.
interesting about that stuff is teams like Buffalo, because I don't think you're going to have anywhere near 4 number 1 seeds here.
Probably not. No, you're right. But you're telling me Duke's not going to be a number 1 seed, so good for Duke. They're in. because they're not the best team in the country anymore.
Well, what I think is this. I think with what we saw over the last week and, 10 or 11 unranked teams beating ranked teams, I think this year is as much in the open as anything else. Yeah, it's parity. So
which is great for college basketball.
But wait a second. You just made the case that it's going to be the same 4 teams or 2 or 3 teams as normal. That's not parity.
Because in the end, just like we talked about on our football show, in the end, you got the 4 best coaches coaching for the Super Bowl right now. You got Belichick, you got McVay, you got Sean, what's his name, and you got Kansas coach. You got the four of the best coaches coaching, and their great coaches get their teams where they need to go.
Yeah. So
and in the end,
is it the 4 best coaches? Or is it 4 of the best coaches? Because you said
4 of the best coaches.
5 minutes.
4 of the best coaches.
I just don't understand why you could make one comment and then change it 30 seconds later like nothing else happened. But my next question is this. UCLA, whatever. You sound like a freaking 5-year-old that's mad because he didn't get his way. All right, so.
I sound like Donald Trump. What
I said was you sound like a 5-year-old that doesn't get his way. That's Donald Trump.
Which sounds like Donald Trump.
Exactly. So be quiet, Mr. President, while I ask a relevant question to the adult that is on the show.
Hey, I have a question. I have one question before you get into that, Mike. How do you think Clemson liked having Big Macs, Whoppers, and Pizza Hut pizza, and Wendy's burgers at the reception last night at the White House?
I would love it. I would say this. I would say it's a bad time to give football players something like that because the season just ended. And usually the loading period for your steroids starts about that time. And when you eat junk food, it really hurts. I mean, you don't get as much from the steroids as when you're eating well. So I would think in the long run, maybe Donald Trump was trying to help Alabama out covertly because I know Vladimir Putin is a huge Alabama Crimson Tide fan. So I think maybe he's trying to throw off the steroids there to give Alabama a little bit of an advantage.
All right, let's give Brian some legitimacy.
UCLA.
Brian, we're off on that. Let's go back to basketball. I'll shut up now.
No, you won't. You know you won't. You say that all the time, and then you're talking like 10 seconds later. I'll ask Brian a question. Brian will start to answer it, and you'll go, go ahead, Brian, I'm sorry. But what we got here, remember yesterday, Risley? Payback's a bitch. All right. So, when we look at this,
I love it.
UCLA. Last night, we had an Indiana basketball show with myself, Colin Hartman, and some washed-up old guy that used to play at IU. And what we talked about was the fact that can a coach change the mentality of the team? And I think this. I think a team assumes the mentality of the coach. And I think when you look at UCLA, you watch them against Oregon, they're diving for balls. They're playing as hard as they possibly can. And I think it's the case to be made here is Murray Bartow has them playing. So is that because of Murray Bartow, or is that just because all them kids just want to show everybody what a terrible coach Steve Alford was?
I think in this particular case, it's a combination of both. I think early in the season it was very clear they had made up their minds that they were not going to play hard for Alford. For whatever reason, he had lost them, and they did not want him there anymore. They did not want him to be their coach. So I think part of it is simply because they have somebody else now. And so they are playing basketball more like they normally would. But I think Bartow has taken that to another level with the way he's having them play up-tempo and rewarding them for playing hard, and has really changed the way they look on the court with just their mindset and attacking. And it's a lot more fun for these young guys who are that athletic to play that way than it was to necessarily play the way they were playing under Alford.
So the interesting thing here to me is this. Murray Bartow, his dad was Gene Bartow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Murray Bartow was the guy that replaced John Wooden. 1976 took UCLA to the Final Four and then immediately quit the job because he said he didn't want to deal with the pressure. I just think it's cool that his son's now the head coach.
It is really cool. And I do think, too, that I know UCLA is looking at Earl Watson and Fred Hoiberg long-term after the season, but if UCLA keeps playing this way, and finishes among the top 2 or 3 teams in the Pac-12, I think Bartow's really going to throw his name into that mix as well to keep that job.
All right, Steve, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
Well, yeah, I can't resist this one. I can't resist this one. Okay, I'm gonna. No, you're the one who all through our football shows whines and cries about nepotism and coaching in the NFL, about how sons of famous coaches get jobs and how pathetic that is that they get the job just because it's their name.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me that it's a great thing that Murray Bartow, son of legendary coach Gene Bartow, who I got to play against as a player when he coached at UAB, is now a great thing. So, stay true to your story, okay? Just stay true. Nepotism, don't sit there and tell me it's bad in the NFL and great for college basketball. Now, Murray Bartow's done a great job, but I think anybody could have come in there and done a great job at UCLA, given how down that program was and how sour that program was on Steve Alford. I think I probably could have gone there and elevated that team above where Alford
Wait a second. Bobby Knight was the greatest coach of all time, in your opinion, correct?
And Pat Knight sucked.
Yeah. But my question is this. Would it be different if Murray Bartow would have started out his career as an assistant to Bob Knight and learned great things? Or is this just you're going to rip him because Gene Bartow is his dad?
I'm not ripping Murray Bartow. I think he's been great for UCLA.
So if Murray Bartow, would Murray Bartow be qualified for you not to say this if he would have done stuff like be an assistant coach for Knight at Indiana in the 80s? He'd been
I don't know, Mike. All I know is you put me in boxes all the time. You stick me in a little box.
I'm just asking you. I'm just asking you.
Hey, Brian.
No, you don't go talk to Brian. You talk to me. Unless you're afraid to talk to me because I'm whipping your ass on this show today.
Brian.
You look like a fool.
Brian, does this make UCLA a contender for the Pac-12 now?
Obviously, because if you would pay attention to our guest, you would know that he said that he thought they could be in the top 2 or 3 in the Pac-12. It is not the Pac-10.
Can they win the Pac-12 now?
It's not the Pac-10.
I mean,
Pac-12, you idiot.
It's the Pac-12. You said Pac-10. You're the idiot.
I did
Go
not
ahead,
say
Brian. I apologize for Steve.
The way the Pac-8 is shaking out, I'm not really sure who's going to finish on top there. No, but the way all those teams are so terrible and so inconsistent, it's certainly not inconceivable. I mean, we have Oregon State up there who's undefeated in conference play, is getting wins that they maybe wouldn't get in a normal year because teams like Oregon aren't as good. Washington's up there, Arizona State's up there, Arizona's up there. You can make a case for really 6-7 teams where you would say, okay, they're not totally out of it just because of the fact that there's no great team and how even and inconsistent and sometimes terrible all of those teams are.
All right, let me follow up with another question for you then. Does by UCLA elevating their play, does that elevate the level of relevance of the Pac-12?
Yes. I mean, the Pac-12 is always going to be elevated when UCLA is good. But I think UCLA can only elevate themselves in the conference so much because of how bad everybody else in the conference is. So beating an Arizona, beating an Arizona State, beating a Utah is not going to have the same impact as it may have in other years because we've seen all of those teams struggle in the non-conference, and we know all of them to not be as good.
Can UCLA, they still have a legitimate chance to play in the dance? I mean, I assume they do because the season's still pretty young, but if they stay on their winning streak, I know they got beat here the last game pretty handily, but it was Oregon State, right, who's undefeated in the conference. Yeah, so other than that, they pretty well won every other game since Bartow's taken over. They can get themselves still in the tournament pretty easily, can't they, if they just continue to win out?
In terms of an at-large bid, I think they can only afford to lose maybe 1 or 2 more games in conference play, depending on who those losses are to, of course, because the committee is going to take into account the way they've looked under Bartow with a bit more weight than they would if it had just been Alford all season. Because they're going to discount what happened before a little bit because they're a different team now led by a different coach. But at the same time, those losses to Liberty, those losses to Belmont, the blowout loss to Cincinnati, all of that is still on their resume. And they're not going to have a ton of opportunities for big wins to make up for that. So it's going to be tough for them. They have very, very little margin for error.
Okay. All right. Can we jump over to the Big Ten? Because
I thought we just
I watch a lot of
Big
Ten, obviously, because we're talking about the Big Ten having 10 teams that are tournament ready, 10 teams in the top 50 of somebody's silly ranking. I don't know if it's the quadrant system or the Kempon system or whatever, but there's 10 teams. But seems to me that number may be kind of shrinking now. Indiana working its way to becoming a bubble team real quick. Ohio State takes 2 big hits over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Big Ten or are they just beating themselves up again? Or is this a situation where maybe, again, you got some teams overranked in the Big Ten?
Well, they're both. They're beating themselves up again, and we've had some teams that have been a bit overranked. Because, as we said, there's that top 2, Michigan State, and then there's that group of the rest of those 8 potential tournament teams and even a couple more below them who are all pretty even talent-wise. Yes, Maryland's got a little bit more, Indiana's got a little bit more, Nebraska's got a little bit more, but all of them have essentially a fairly level playing field. And all of them are good enough to make the tournament, but all of them are probably going to be in that 5 to 9, 5 to 10 range in terms of seed lines in the NCAA tournament. And so when you have teams in that line, it means that they're decent, but not good enough to really flex their muscle on a consistent basis against good teams. And because they're playing so many like teams, we're going to see a lot of them beating up on each other and putting up records around 500, some slightly more, some slightly below, right around 500 in conference play.
Does that hurt them? I mean, given the fact of who the competitions are playing each other, as much as like if you lose to a Maryland, Indiana does, that's obviously not as bad as Indiana or UCLA losing to a whatever last week team that they beat, that beat them. I mean, so does that hurt Indiana badly to lose to Maryland or even lose to Nebraska, who now is appearing to be a very good basketball team?
No, it won't hurt. It won't hurt them, but again, it lessens that margin for error against bad teams. They'll have to beat the Rutgers and the Illinois of the world, obviously, but then they'll have to go out and, because those are the teams they're going up against, kind of in that region of at-large bids for the NCAA tournament, you have to go back and beat some of those teams as well. You can't just keep taking losses to good teams and think you're going to be okay. What I think it will have the most impact on is that we're going to see all of those 8, 9 teams rotate kind of in the bottom half of the top 25 and probably drive you crazy because the team will be ranked and then not ranked and then ranked and then not ranked, because just based on who they'll play that week, I feel like a lot of those teams are just going to end up cycling through kind of that bottom part of that top 25, depending on who they played that week before and who ended up winning.
Yeah, I put no credibility in the rankings to any degree anyway. I've never have. We were trained that way, never to just don't worry. But the only ranking that matters is where everybody finished at the end of the tournament at the end, on this Tuesday after the Final Four. That's the ranking that counts. Other than that, nothing else is it's all just advertising. So I mean, it's something for radio people to fodder and talk over each week during the season about all this stuff. So I don't really care where teams are ranked. Teams pop out of nowhere. Pittsburgh all of a sudden is making some run, beating some teams. Here comes Iowa, who is kind of not really ready. Here goes Indiana, kind of tanking again right now. But Indiana's a situation right now where the brutal part of their schedule is right now. The second half of their schedule is pretty much a cakewalk. So you're going to see Indiana probably take a big hit right now. And then the rest of their games.
The second half of Indiana's schedule is a cakewalk.
It's not. It's a cakewalk compared to what they're going to deal with in the next 5 or 6 games, Mike. I'm sorry. Let me counsel. Let me
sorry
specify.
for being wrong.
Let me redirect.
Well, I mean, I don't see where the schedule. It may let up slightly, but I mean, right now they're going to go to Purdue. They're going to go to Northwestern. They're going to go to Rutgers.
Yeah, four of the next 5 games, or 5 of the next 6 games are on the road. Then they come home. They play like 5 or 6 or 7 of their last games at home, which is a perfect time to have those where you can get some momentum going, get some favorable press when the NCAA starts making its selections. And Indiana's got some home games where they can notch some wins a little bit easier than trying to go to Ann Arbor.
I'm sorry. You know what? Nebraska was a home game, and they got their ass kicked.
Right.
So I don't see how we
Indiana's
can
got issues.
Anything that way.
Brian, did you watch the IU-Nebraska game yesterday?
I did.
What's your take on IU right now? from an outside observer, Mike and I do a show, so we have opinions. As an outside observer, what's your take on Indiana basketball right now?
There are some of the defensive issues that we've discussed before in past weeks, but I think a more alarming and interesting thing to watch moving forward is that I think their offense has become so Romeo Langford-centric. It seems, at least to me, that it seems like on a lot of times, especially if the shot clock is later on or on big possessions, they'll run plays and give the ball to Langford, and then everybody kind of stands around and watches him and tries and knows that he's going to do something and is relying on him to do something instead of continuing some off-ball movement. Everybody else trying to get up and make plays. It's become Romeo, go save us.
Really? Is your dog want to ask a question? You're really professional to have your dog barking in the background, Risley.
I'm sorry. Our pool guy is here.
Oh, I know.
Put him on. He probably knows more than you do.
Our pool guy is here, and we're getting our yard mowed. Oh, we can do that in California. You guys are probably got the snow shovelers out there and got the plumber fixing your frozen pipes. So
that's like
that's the way it is.
Overcast.
We don't have pipes in the trailer.
It's not great.
Mike, I got a couple questions to ask. If you got something else to go do it.
Go ask him. You can ask him. I don't even have to go anywhere. Just ask him.
All right. So Indiana, in my opinion, well, I don't know. We do a show on that. I'm not going to talk about that. Okay, let's get to the elephant in the room, the rankings, the all important rankings that I don't give a damn about. Who's the new number one, Brian?
I think it's Virginia, and we'll find out this week with Virginia. They play Virginia Tech tonight, and then they'll play Duke on Saturday. I think they win both their games. They will have quieted as much of the talk as they probably can about them not being able to win in March, not being that good, and they lost to UMBC. Ha, 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 ha. I talked last week with you guys about how I think this Virginia team is different because of some improvements they've made offensively and some tweaks that they made defensively, running opponents off the three-point line and making them kind of taking the more NBA mindset of making opponents take mid-range jumpers. You can't argue against Michigan. You can't really argue a ton against Tennessee, although I think Tennessee is a number 3 behind Michigan and Virginia. But if Virginia wins both of those games this week against top 10 teams, even though Duke's shorthanded, I think they would, at least in my mind, solidify themselves as the top team.
And you know what, Brian? Despite my favorite college basketball player, Kyle Guy, who actually is a very good basketball player and a very nice kid. I just always having fun with it. It's fun. I think you're absolutely right. I think Virginia moves to number 1 ahead of Michigan. I watched Michigan play Indiana. Indiana had a chance to win that game. I mean, they didn't win the game, and Michigan's strength prevailed, but they weren't out of that game until toward the end of that game. And that tells me that Michigan may not be in Michigan playing in the Big Ten. They're going to fall at some point. They have to go through Michigan State twice. They've got to play Indiana at Bloomington. I mean, they've got some tough games facing, but so does Virginia. I mean, look at Virginia's weekend. But I think right now, if you're going to do these rankings, I would think Virginia would probably move to number 1. How far does Duke fall?
I'm assuming they'll lose to Virginia this weekend without Trey Jones, even though it's at Cameron Indoor.
Where's the game at?
It's at Cameron Indoor. It's in Durham.
Okay. You think they'll lose it all, really?
I believe so, it is. Yeah. I think Virginia may have won that game anyway, even if Duke had Trey Jones, just because of the way Virginia's going to slow Duke down and make them play more of a half-court game, and Duke doesn't do that very well. And now that Trey Jones is gone, obviously Duke does it even worse. Duke's not going to fall out of the top 10 or anything. I think they may fall maybe in the 7-8 range, kind of below Gonzaga, maybe still above.
You think they'll go that far, really?
Well, yeah, they would have lost 2 games. Michigan State's playing really well, and then number 5. I don't think you would put them ahead of Michigan State. I think then you get Gonzaga, or Gonzaga's number 5, and Gonzaga beat them. So I think voters would view that head-to-head and put Gonzaga up there. I think you put Michigan State up there. So they could be in the 6-7 range, I would think, if they lost both games.
And that's my problem with the rankings, is it there has not been an undefeated basketball team since 1976. the great Indiana Hoosiers of Kent Benson, Scott May, and Quinn Buckner in that group.
Mm-hmm.
And no team, that's over 40 years ago. So to make an assumption that any team anymore is ever going to go undefeated in college basketball with the parity that's in the game today is almost a ludicrous thing. It might happen, just like it might happen that a UMBC might beat a Virginia at one time. That's a fluke. And I think if anybody ever goes undefeated again in a season, it's going to be more of a fluke than anything. They're going to get the break that Indiana got when they beat Michigan in overtime, when Jimmy Cruz tips a ball in that shouldn't have gone in and gets them into overtime, gets Michigan at home, and they win the game in overtime. I don't think so. To tell me that Duke's going to fall anywhere besides number 2, ceremonially will drop them down one spot. But to tell me that Duke is still not Duke after one loss. Now, if they go back and lose if they lose to Virginia this week and then have another loss real quickly, then you say, okay, maybe they're not as good as we thought they were. But one loss to me doesn't define a basketball team and the culture of that team and the strength of that basketball team. Knowing full well that their best player's out for at least another 2 to 3 weeks. And you sit there, and that's why I hate the rankings, because it's what have you done for me in the last game, and not look at the overall body of work that this basketball team does. Duke is the best team in college basketball. They will be. And come tournament time, if they're healthy, if Trey gets back, they're going to be the team to beat. And everybody's going to tell you that. And they're going to end up with a number 1 seed. And it just drives me crazy to say that all of a sudden now Duke has been number 1 all season, now is not as good as Michigan State because they lost 1 game. And Michigan State already has 2 losses. I don't get that theory.
I'm basing that off of Duke losing Saturday. If Duke wins Saturday,
lost 1 game.
They'll fall 1 or 2 spots. But if they lose to Virginia, they will have lost both games this week, both at home, one of which being to a Syracuse team that's not very good.
My ranking would be Virginia. Move Virginia to number 1 because they're undefeated. I think they're better than Michigan. And I would leave Duke at number 2 and leave Michigan at number 3. I mean, that would be mine, and then Tennessee at number 4. And I think Gonzaga, whatever Mike wants to call him. I say Gonzaga.
Because you can't pronounce English words. Go ahead.
I know. I still think they're one of the most dangerous basketball teams because they are so well coached and they play such good basketball, and they play error-free basketball for the most part. And come tournament time, you want to not make mistakes because one mistake will catapult you into, a spiral real quickly. And when it's one and done, you can't recover from that spiral. But to tell me that Duke's going to drop to 3, 4, or 4, 5, or 6, or 7 because they have 1 loss just unvalidates the polls in my opinion.
No, it doesn't, because they'll have 1 loss to a team in Syracuse that's unranked. You can't lose to an unranked team and not take a fall.
Jim Boeheim, one of the great coaches of all time.
Oh, yeah. Jim Boeheim, one of the great coaches of all time, is one of the dumbest statements I've ever heard. Come on.
Mike.
Jim Boeheim has done less with more than almost anybody that's ever lived.
That's true.
Thank you.
He produced Chris Mullins.
No, he didn't. How would he? Geez, now you look like a moron because Chris Mullin played for Lou Carnesecca at St. John's in the mid-1980s.
St. John's. Yeah, you're right.
Come on.
Big red, big orange.
Jeez. I thought maybe you would come back with nuh-uh because I know Boeheim's mom, but you didn't.
All right.
Get it? And he
all right, whatever.
Chris Mullin. Look, you're having a bad day today, Risley.
So, Mike, we both agreed that Virginia goes to number 1. You believe I agree with that?
Do I believe that you agree with that? Yes, I believe you agree with that.
Okay.
I don't think that's
Mike,
what you meant to ask me. I think you meant to ask me if I agreed with that. Correct.
Do you agree with that?
Do I agree with what?
Virginia going to number 1.
To tell you the truth, I didn't really consider it because you told me it didn't matter who was ranked number 1, so I stopped thinking about it.
No, it doesn't.
But
I'm playing the media game now. I gave you my opinion. My opinion. Opinions are like buttholes. We all have them, and they all stink. Okay, so it's no big deal. I
hate to tell you this, but if your butthole stinks, try to wash it. But when I look at Virginia, it will not daily and not a couple times a day, obviously, if it stinks. But if I look at Virginia, I look at their body of work. Are we looking at a resume? Are we looking at the eye test? Because I think Michigan would beat them. I think Michigan's better coached. I think Michigan beats them.
It would be a very good game that I think could go either way. I don't think Michigan would beat them. But if you're looking at the end of this week, I'm assuming Virginia will have beaten Virginia Tech tonight and then beaten Duke on Saturday. And if that's the case, that's 2 more top 10 wins for them. There may be some.
Shouldn't a numbered one team be the best team in the country?
I think Virginia
Which is still Duke.
I think this. I think if you put them in a one-game situation, John Beilein's going to outcoach Bennett, and Michigan's going to beat them.
Not this year. As long as Virginia stays healthy.
I don't agree with that either, Mike.
Nobody cares what you agree with, Risley, because you think Chris Mullen played at Syracuse.
No, I made a mistake, all right?
Yeah, well, don't make them, because that's a simple mistake that should not be made by a college basketball analyst. Am I correct in stating that, Brian?
I'm not a college basketball analyst. I'm not a college basketball analyst.
You're just an anal. All right. Do you have anything else
anal.
for our fine? Not when it's analyst, because it's not analyst. Are you an analyst, Steve?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
It's California.
Oh yeah, I forgot
It's
you moved to California. You're definitely an analyst.
What's up with Kentucky? Are they a contender this year, or are they just kind of hovering back down there? Do they have anything for come tournament time, or is this kind of not going to be a great year for Calipari?
They might be a second weekend team. And they'll beat up on teams at home, but I don't know if they necessarily have they're not playing at the same level as the teams like Tennessee and as the real legitimate contenders. They have talent, but they're not playing that well. They're playing better than they have been, but they're not playing as well as I think the top 9 or 10 teams in the country. They'll get there and kind of take care of what they should. Based on their seed line, but I don't know if they have the potential to really make a deep run.
All right, Steve,
okay.
Do you have any else or anything
yes,
else?
Yes, I do. I do. Who, Brian, in your opinion right now, I enjoy talking. I learn from Brian, Mike, okay? I do.
Whatever.
I'm
you
trying
learn
to
from
become a college
everybody.
basketball analyst.
Jeez, did you?
You're right, I do. That's right.
What? I've never heard.
Let me ask a question. Hey, look, you're wasting time. Let me ask a question. Brian, who is the team right now in college basketball that you say that's not on the radar screen right now, but we need to be watching and looking for, start following their scores? It's somebody who's going to all of a sudden surprise us next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks down the road and say, wow, that team came out of nowhere. Do you have any idea who that team is right now?
I think it could be LSU, and I think we could see that. I think they play tonight. It might be tomorrow. But they play Ole Miss, and Ole Miss has been that team to this point that's kind of everybody expects to be terrible and has done really well. LSU I really liked before the season started. They have as much talent, just pure talent, as Kentucky, as Tennessee, as anybody in the SEC. It's just all young. And early on in the season, they played like a young team. This was kind of the time of year where they're starting to figure it out. They're undefeated in conference play. There's a big man, Naz Reid, who was 6'10", 240, 250, can handle the ball like a guard, can shoot the three. Plus, they got Tremont Waters back from last year. He was one of the better underrated point guards in the country. If they beat Ole Miss this week, I think that could really spearhead a run for them towards not necessarily the top of the SEC, but put them among the top 2 or 3 teams in that conference and as a top 20, top 15 team nationally.
So it kind of sounds to me like you're saying we should probably be a little bit more high on the SEC basketball now than we probably have been in the past. So you got Tennessee up there, you got Ole Miss in there, you got
Kentucky,
Auburn,
Mississippi
State. Now you're Mississippi State, LSU. Now you're talking about maybe is the SEC kind of starting to get somewhere near the Big Ten?
It was
in terms
starting
of basketball?
last year. Last year the SEC was loaded.
Well, okay, Brian, what's your thoughts? I mean, should we be paying more attention to SEC basketball now?
Oh, yeah. And don't forget, South Carolina's undefeated in the SEC currently.
And you got Tom Crean at Georgia. I'll tell you what, Tom Crean's a good basketball coach.
Sure,
he's a perfect fit for Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll make that team better than it was.
I don't know if the SEC doesn't have anybody outside of Tennessee who can compete with Michigan State. But I think that kind of middle pack they talk about with the Big Ten, that middle pack in the SEC, I think it may not be as deep but it's every bit as good as that middle pack in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I believe so. Because I think the Big Ten's overrated right now.
Yeah, I mean,
we didn't even talk about Ohio State. Ohio State fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah, they did.
Because nobody cares about
they're
Ohio
gone.
State basketball.
They're going down with Indiana. They're on that same Titanic boat that Indiana's getting on real quick.
But all right.
And I watched a special on the Titanic too. You know what took the Titanic down? There was actually a coal fire. It started long before the boat ever left dock, and it actually burned. It got the metal so hot and fatigued that when it hit the iceberg, the metal was so fatigued and hot that the coal fire it made it so easy for the iceberg to rip through the ice, and that's what caused the hull to split apart and caused the boat to sink. Watched that last night at 2:30 in the morning.
I think I watched that over the weekend. There was also they didn't slow down because they only had enough coal to get them across the ocean. So they
wanted to make a speed record. Yeah, they didn't fully stock their coal, and they had to keep flying. And there were 17 stupid things that had
Titanic facts.
There were 17 stupid things that had to happen in a row for the Titanic to sink. All 17 of them happened in a row. It's a convergence of the perfect storm for the Titanic to sink. Any one of those 17 things don't happen, that boat doesn't sink. Amazing.
Same thing with UMBC beating Virginia.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not really, because that was like a 20-point win. So I don't.
And it was a 2-hour sinking of the most unsinkable boat in the world.
All right, Cal Guy was the captain and the leading scorer in Lawrence Central history. All right.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me anymore. I'm over that.
I want to thank Brian Rauf for coming on Titanic Weekly. Facts you don't know about the Titanic. Next week, we're going to talk about the sinking of the Lusitania, correct, Brian?
I know about that, too. Damn Germans, U-20. Damn submarine U-20, idiot. You know what? The Lusitania, they had no business being where they were being. They warned them. Germans warned them. You're in open waters. We're going to shoot anything that comes in open waters. But it was considered a war crime, and the captain got his butt hung. Captain of the submarine.
He got butt hung.
I watched that show at 11:30 last night on Sinking of the Lusitania.
Oh, the what?
Lusitania.
The
Lusitania.
Jeez.
Don't talk to me about mispronouncing words. Brian Rauf.
His name is Brian Rauf, you idiot.
Yeah, I know, but you mispronounced it 3 times to start the show.
No, I didn't. I mispronounced it once.
Brian, you're going to come back next week and do this BS again?
Of course, I have to learn more ancient boat facts.
Definitely.
Well, see, that's what gets us the guest, because Steve has all kind of reality TV and ancient boat facts.
Hey, I watched that same thing he did, so I'm right there with him.
On the coal, the coal fire in the Titanic.
Yeah, they didn't have enough to slow down.
Yeah, they couldn't. Yeah, they had to keep the speed up to get the other way. They wouldn't have made it. Of course, they didn't make it anyway. So what does it matter?
It'd have been better.
There's a bunch of good coal like 2.5 miles down at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, but it'd be better to run out of coal and just be kind of floating around.
Somebody tow you in. Hey, can I get a tow here?
Yeah. I mean, because let's face it. I mean, the only good thing about the sinking of the Titanic was when Leonardo DiCaprio died. That's true, right? That's where, I mean... that
wasn't Leonardo DiCaprio. That was Jack Dawson from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. Which Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin doesn't even really exist.
And probably neither does Jack Dawson on the Titanic. But what the hell? Who wants to screw up a good story?
That piece of wood was big enough for both of them.
Boy.
That piece of... No, you know what? They actually did tests on that.
You got to watch what you say on
that piece of wood would have held both
Brian.
of them. You
got to watch what you say. And to say that piece of wood was big enough for the both of them, that's just going down the wrong lane there. All right.
You can cut that up and use it. You're welcome.
If you want to hear more interesting boat facts or college basketball facts, you can follow Brian Rauf at brauf33, correct? And that's RAUF. You can also find him on Fansided and at bustingbrackets.com.
Bustingbrackets.com.
All right, Brian. It was a pleasure as always. I apologize for Steve and some of the things he said, but you knew that was coming. It's just the way it is sometimes.
No, we're used to it at this point.
Yeah, that's what I figured. All right, guys. We will be back in about a minute with Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report to talk about the Lions on a few games tonight and to have some interesting fun.
Yeah, Brian, we're into betting now. We're into
with the legend of Jimmy the Greek. Yeah, but we had this dude on last night. His name's Bobby Sheridan, and he picked like 2 tennis matches, 2 college basketball games, 1 NBA game, and nailed every one of them. So now me and Steve are starting to think about maybe we should start doing that for a living.
Betting. I'm just going to give you my money.
Yeah, tell me to make us some money.
So what you're saying is Bobby will be your wife.
I may be Bobby's wife if he keeps winning, making money.
That's what I mean.
No.
That's the fact.
I'd rather go to Rodeo Drive and hang out with the girls.
You moved to California when you said no, but I'd be his wife.
If it means I can go hang out at Rodeo Drive, it's fine with me.
Isn't it called Rodeo Drive? You moron.
I said Rodeo Drive.
No, you said Rodeo Drive. Did he not say Rodeo Drive, Brian?
I heard rodeo.
Thank you. All right, Brian. You're still my favorite guest.
My Midwest. That's my Midwest accent coming through. So
she's Midwest moronicy coming through. If that's a word.
I tried to drive down Rodeo Drive one time. They wouldn't let my car go through because I had Indiana license plates on it.
Yeah, it's because you were riding a horse.
No, I actually was driving a Range Rover. They would let me through.
Sure you would. All right, we will be back after a commercial break of 1 minute with Bobby Sheridan. Thanks again, Brian.
Bye, Brian.
See you guys.
Hey, this is Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, inviting you to join us every week right here on the Grueling Truth Sports Network for a high-energy romp through the always fascinating world of professional boxing. We give you 90 scintillating minutes that includes insight from our expert analysts, professional boxer Travis Hartman, boxing journalist Rizwan Zahid, and nationally known author and boxing writer John J. Responti. We give you an update on the United Kingdom boxing scene from British correspondent Paul McLaughlin, and amazing tours through the storied past of professional boxing with our historian Christopher James Shelton. Not to mention a 10-year legacy of more than 500 world-class guests. If you're a boxing junkie, the Ringside Boxing Show is the tonic you're going to need every week. Check us out and discover why we have the most listened-to podcast on the Grueling Truth Sports Network.
The hottest, sweatiest show on West Coast radio.
All right, guys, we're back on Survive in Advance, and the Ringside Boxing Show is every Sunday night. They are not the most listened to sports podcast on thegruelingtruth.net, even though they claim that on their commercial, because that would be this show, Survive in Advance with me and Steve Risley. And it's because of all the witty humor and banter you get to hear daily, and all the mistakes Risley makes on sports history and everything else. But today we've had fun boat facts about the Titanic, and now we are going to have a man that me and Steve are starting to think maybe we ought to just start betting for a living. We had him on yesterday. I think he nailed everything, and he's back to give us some more picks today and talk a little Jimmy the Greek. Help me welcome to the show Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing this morning?
We're doing great. We're pumped up. We've had maybe the greatest show in the history of shows so far today, so don't screw it up, Bobby.
Yeah, but I swear to God, Bobby, if you don't fire up and lighten up here, you're going to just trash an hour and 10 minutes of great work that we just put into this.
Yeah,
I mean, we
covered
the entire top 25. We covered the sinking of the Lusitania, the sinking of the Titanic, the first American submarine ever to sink. We did a lot of boat facts today, ship facts, actually probably ship facts. I think a boat's a little smaller than a ship, but anyway, and we covered every base.
Let me take a guess where the Titanic. Let me take a guess where the Titanic references was going to. I haven't heard the show, but I mean, did all that start from the Indiana stuff?
But Indiana, Ohio State, yeah.
But let me ask you this.
They're on.
Wait a second. There's something generally wrong here. And that would be Bobby has not listened to the show so far today, so he's missed probably the best show we've ever done.
You didn't listen, Bobby?
Come on, Bobby.
Live. Seriously? You don't do your homework and come on to our show You don't get on the radio and
you know what we're talking about. See, you should have come in right away and told us something about the Titanic that we didn't know. You got to add something to the show, Bobby.
Bobby, come on. I told you last night I sent you a private message. Do your homework, buddy. Don't come in here stone cold because we'll blare you. We'll blow you out of the water.
But this is the thing. Yesterday, he didn't answer a question Risley wanted.
Bobby.
But what I can tell you is this. I think every pick Bobby gave us yesterday was correct. And I remember Steve
I'm not arguing with that crap
with
anymore.
Bobby. Bobby, we got off the phone.
I'm not.
We got off the phone, Bobby, and Steve calls me and he says, "Oh, he was going to win this game by double digits. He doesn't know what he's talking about." And then, like 2 minutes into the game, it's like 9-0. It's like 9-0, and I text Steve. I said, "Maybe Bobby knows what he's talking about."
I said,
and then,
"Yep."
This is another thing I want to bring up, Bobby. The first conversation we ever had, and Risley didn't believe me, but is it not true that you said that Steve has been much better on this show since he's realized I'm the smarter of the two?
No. I didn't say
don't
that.
you lie, because I record every conversation I have with everybody.
Bobby,
tell the truth, Bobby.
Bobby, we respect manhood more than we do pussydom.
Come on, Bobby.
No.
Don't do that, Bobby. I know you said it. Mike played it back for me. Mike played it back for me. Stand your ground, buddy. Don't sit there and bail on us.
All right.
I lose my respect.
Let's get back on track, which is something we very rarely do on this show.
Don't go there, Bobby. Be a man.
Yeah, I'm going to pour Roger. I misremembered.
He misremembered. There you go.
Andy Pettit misremembered.
He did not have sex with that woman. All right, so when we look at
That's a yogiism.
Let's look at your plays, your top plays tonight. Let's go to the NBA. I think what do you got? The Warriors game is your big play tonight?
Yes.
Why did I get my sheet, Bobby? Why do I not have an email from you what I got yesterday? How come you're not sending that to me again?
I got to get your email address. It doesn't connect with the direct messages.
I sent it to you yesterday, Steve. That was my fault for not sending it to you yesterday.
Oh,
no.
Yeah, that was
Steve.
That was from Mike.
Fine, Brian. Don't worry about it, Bobby. Don't worry. Don't sweat what Steve says. But let's talk about the game tonight.
All right. Well, the game tonight. I'm going to give you like a little bit of a backstory here. I was a kid in the early '80s. I was born in 1969. So this is the Lakers Showtime 81, 82 year. I'm 12, 13 years old. And I'm Christmas time. I had a couple uncles that loved to bet on the NBA, and I just listened to them talk and listened to them go over stuff. And I remember one of them saying, wouldn't you just love to know the 6 or 8 games that the Lakers were really, really, really going to be focused on winning? Not just Boston or Philly, back in those days, but the other games where you didn't necessarily know for sure. Because when they brought their A effort, with that group, they weren't going to lose, Tonight, I think, is that night for the Warriors. I think that they're going to bring one of the 6 or 8 games where they really, really bring their best to the table. And they're a 1-point favorite at Denver. Joel Embiid, the star center for the Sixers, he made a comment, quote the other day where he said, the next 3 weeks are going to shape our season. He was, talking about his own team. Well, 42, 43 games mark is where we're at now in the NBA. And standings, starting to look. You're starting to look at your team. What do we have? Where are we at? Standings are starting to mean a little something. And the winner of this game tonight is at the top of the West. And this is a very prideful team. You don't win 3 championships in 4 years without having that, great pride inside. And it's a revenge spot. Denver beat them the last time they played. It was 198. Very low-scoring game, which makes you think about defense. And talking about defense, the Warriors were down 5 with 2 minutes left the other night against Dallas and outscored them by 10 in the last 2 minutes to win by 5. So things are starting to shape up for this team. They're getting Cousins back within a week. He's been practicing. And Steve Kerr said, he's going to come right into the starting lineup. He makes this guy's such a good leader. He's already said if Cousins comes back, he's in the lineup. These guys are starting to think, okay, my role goes here, this happens here. It's go time for these guys, and this is one of the 6 or 8 games where they're going to play an A game, and you get them at -1. You just have to win the game straight up, and really like Golden State tonight. I think they're going to play a very good game. This could be a double-digit win at Denver, and that just doesn't happen. Denver's a great team, and they're sitting atop the West, and they deserve it. But this is a revenge spot. This is a game where Golden State is going to play a very good ball game tonight. So we're going to be on them tonight, and let's go.
My biggest question here is Denver at home. They're 18-3, which leads the league. They've won 12 straight at home. That would worry me a little bit. But the big thing to me is I think the last time they beat them was, a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and now we're getting to the point where we're around the halfway point of the season. And I think that when you've got a veteran team like Golden State that's won as much as they have, I think the best time to play them is early in the season because they're just going to get better as it goes. And we don't know how this Nuggets team will react in a game like this because this is probably the biggest game they've played since Fat Lever was there.
You might be right, Alex English.
Yeah.
It's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be a great game, and I think we're going to get Golden State in one of those 6 or 8 spots that I used to listen to my uncle talk about. And so tonight, that's where we're going to go. We could not have recommended Golden State hardly any at all this year. They're not covering as a favorite, which is every night, but they're not covering as a substantial favorite at home. They're about a 35% play. On the road, they're 40-something%. I mean, you just can't bet on them. This is a spot you can bet on them in this spot tonight. So we're going to, and we're going to make it a top play, and don't go losing the mortgage or nothing. But I mean, I do think it's the best play on the NBA board tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like that too. And if I had any money, I'd bet. Next up, let's talk.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. I had the privilege of in high school and in AAU of actually being one of the coaches that helped coach Gary Harris. He went to my son's high school and he played some on our AAU team, and I worked with the high school team for a while and helped coach while Gary was there. So there you go. I've got a tie to this game.
Very nice. Yeah.
So I'm betting with my heart. I'm betting on Denver. This is why I don't bet.
All right. Well, you know what?
I'm cheering for the Warriors.
But I'm not betting against you ever again. So.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not betting.
Let's talk a little Australian Open. What's your big play for that, Bobby?
Well, okay, we're 3-1 in the Australian Open, and we got 2 more dogs tonight. I'm going to give out one of them here on the air, and the other one will be a little teaser for your fans. But the one that we're going to give out tonight is coming right back with a guy named Taylor Fritz. He's a next-gen kind of a guy who we've had in the last 3 wins that he's posted on the tour, and down in Australia twice. And he we've gotten off the next match, and we've been right. And this game we're staying on. This matchup, we're staying on him. And we think he's ready to take that next step. And he's playing a guy named Gael Monfils, who's a French, very solid pro who is going to be up for this major. You know, those guys, this is when they bring it and when they have their bodies completely ready. And it's going to be a significant test for Fritz tonight. But plus $1.40, I think he's ready. Monfils plays very spotty. He plays up and down. He's an emotional type player. Fritz is a solid guy who I just think that on his career path is ready to take the next step and win a big match. This would be maybe the biggest match he's ever won. I think it probably would be. Second round Australian Open against Monfils. So I'm going to go with that. And then the other matchup is a teaser. And, what I mean is I'm going to tease the audience with who it is. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's a guy who would never have thought we would have been on him 2 weeks ago and in any form in this tournament. And he comes in and he plays, he wins his first match straight sets so impressively, just blew me away when we re-looked at it. And he's playing a guy, and the reason what got us on it is he's playing a guy that we've been on recently, a guy named Seppi. I just gave it away. He's playing, that's fine. I want to help everybody out. He's playing a guy named Seppi. and we've been on him, but we know his style of play. And when we watch this kid named Thompson win his last match in straight sets, he did it so impressively, and he did it with a style that's going to give Seppi a lot of problems tonight. And Vegas is on it. It's only plus $1.20. And so we're going to take both of those guys. We think it's a really good chance to win both. And at the worst, a split between those two matchups. And they're both plus. So you just win the juice like we did yesterday. And you move on. But we got a good shot to win both of those in the Australian Open, go to 5-1 in the tournament. That's it's my goal. And Golden State, and then we got and I'm not going to give this one out, but we have a really good opinion on the Marquette Georgetown game, but we're not going to give that out on the air.
All right. And, of course, as always, if you get the Sheridan Report, tell them how to get the Sheridan Report, Bobby.
Well, you can go on to the website, which is thesheridanreport.com, and you can purchase a daily report, which would be only $10, and we went over that yesterday as to why I only charge $10, and then you can purchase the whole month for $50, less than $2 a day to get my thoughts. What you're hearing now, you won't get all the banter about why, but you'll get the games for less than $2 a day. And, it's fun. A guy does the website for me. He's a guy coached in baseball. He's a really good, I say a kid, but he's not a kid anymore, but he was a kid to me because he coached him, and he does the website for me. He does a great job, and I pay him with most of the money that I get off of the website sales, the purchases. I give to him, and that's why I do it. And my own money is just from playing the games, and that's why I just charge a little bit, and it's kind of like a tip for some good advice, and let's keep the good mojo going.
All right, so also on the Sheridan Report, at the bottom of each one, you've got, whose birthday it is in the sports world, but also...
Well, can I ask you before we get into that stuff?
Jeez, yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Steve? You just don't ever say, Riz, do you have anything you want to add? I have to butt in and say, Riz, anything you want to ask?
Go ahead, Risley.
Okay, well, all right. Bobby, how do you do your research? Do you literally sit there 24 hours a day and watch sports on TV, or... How do you get because I'm amazed how accurate you are, and most of the guys that do what you do are generally pretty much on the spot. How do you do your research? Is that a trade secret? Like you just don't give away how they do it? But I mean,
it's not a secret. It's not a secret. It's hard work. I never stop, Steve. I guess it's a labor of love. I never stop.
Yeah,
reading and watching articles, and Twitter has opened up a brand new world for me and made it so much easier. I never used to. It says, if you go on my Twitter handle, it says joined in 2009. I joined in 2018. I mean, I literally joined in 2009, but I never did Twitter. I never went on there. I got an account and never did nothing with it. In fact, I had to rename the account when I started doing this. And you get to follow some really good people who have a lot of good insight and post a lot of good articles, and that connects to the other guys, So Twitter has made life easier, where I don't have to search. It kind of all comes to me. And
I noticed on Twitter. I noticed on Twitter you blocked me this morning. So
that's a joke. I would never block Mr. Risley. You're the reason I found this show.
What?
Probably know it. Steve knows this. Steve knows this, Mike. But I don't know if he mentioned to you. But Steve does know this. I'm a big IU Bobby Knight era guy. I've watched all the YouTube videos, meaning the old games, and listened to all the documentaries, and I've just really, really, really respect and admire Coach Knight. And when I found this show on Twitter that Steve Risley was co-hosting, boom, I had to listen, and I'm hooked on it. And we can talk. Steve promised me that one day I could be on longer and we can talk some Bobby Knight stuff. But even last night, I listened to your guys' post-game show and got to hear about some Knight stuff from two guys that would have known how he would have handled that. And it's just fun for me. I love that stuff. So that that Steve's the whole reason I found this show.
Steve is the greatest.
See, Mike,
because I know that name.
Mike, Mike, you see, Mike, despite what you think, I am some people's heroes.
Oh, God. Now you're really pushing it to sanity. I would imagine this. Bobby's about my age. His hero's Steve Alford.
Bobby, what was funny was when you were talking about how you were young and you were 12 or 13 and you were watching the Showtime Lakers and the Celtics and things like that. The sad part about this, I played against those guys, okay? I mean, you're sitting there telling about being a 12-year-old, watching them on TV and listening to your parents talk about it. And I'm thinking, crap, I played against Bird. I played against Johnson. I played against all those guys, Worthy, Perkins, all those guys, McHale. I played against every one of those guys in college. And so it's like, oh, man, I'm old.
All right.
Greg Kelser, right?
Oh, yeah. That was
Greg Kelser,
79.
Greg Kelser, probably the most underrated college basketball player I ever played against. Just because of magic, he got overshadowed.
He was the difference in the 79 championship game.
I agree, yeah. But, I mean, it was Kelser.
Yeah,
Kelser was the hardest guy I ever had to try and guard. I could not guard him. I mean, he just was too athletic and too good. He's one of the few guys I had nothing for.
Oh, geez.
Couldn't muscle him.
I saw about all your career, Risley. There's a few guys that had nothing.
His first step was as good as anybody I'd ever seen in my life. And if it wasn't for Magic, he would have been a star of stars. But he complimented Magic, and they won a championship, and they did great. But he never got the individual recognition he needed because Magic was the dominant force on that team.
Well, because Magic and Bird are still the two greatest players that ever lived.
No, but I'm telling you, the most underrated college basketball player of that era, in my opinion, that I ever played against, I didn't play against everybody, was Greg Kelser, bar none.
All right.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Can I ask Steve a quick question? We don't have to go too long on it, but Greg Kelser versus Tolbert. Okay, you played against Tolbert in practice probably 1,000 times. I mean, how would you compare those two guys?
Oh man, that's a good call. Golly, because Ray was the other one I knew how to play Ray. I finally figured it out. Playing him every day in practice. Ray was a bitch. Great athlete, but Kelser probably could play the wing better than Ray could. Ray was designed more as a post player. When he played for us, he didn't play on the wing as much. And when you get somebody down on a block, it gets a little bit easier to guard them. If you got strength, you can use your strength to guard them. Kelser took you out on the wing, and every advantage I had was neutralized immediately against Kelser. Tolbert, I could take down the paint, and I could body him and chaw on him and things like that. And I could get him where I wanted him to. I couldn't move Greg Kelser. So the notch, just because Kelser could go to the wing and be such a deadly threat out there, and he had a good jump shot. Ray had a jump shot, and he took it enough times, and was a good shooter. I'm not saying it was a negative thing, but Ray was primarily a post player, and you take me down in the post, and I took on Joe Barry Carroll and was able to neutralize him. And here's a 7-footer, one of the most underrated big guys ever played Big Ten basketball. But you take a Greg Kelser out there on the wing, and very few people had anything to stop him. And then you got Magic Johnson throwing the ball, which means if he beats you by half a step, it's like Tom Brady slicing it right into 5 defenders. And there's 5 defensive backs around him. The ball gets into the receiver's Edelman's hands. Like, how did that ball even get there? And it's because Brady just put it right where it had to be. And that's how Magic was with Kelser. So if Kelser got a half step on you, you were dead. You were gone. Forget it. Nothing you can do about it. You said, the first words out of your mouth were, help! Help! And I told us to communicate. He taught us to communicate. So when he got that half step on me, my first words were, help!
You see, Mike? You see the stuff we get to hear? This is great.
That's the truth. That's a great comparison, though. Tolbert and they were both great athletes. Ray is just a phenomenal athlete. I mean, we used to train and we run the golf course in training, and it was about a 2.5 mile trek you'd run on the kind of a half cross country course. And we would all start running, and we'd be all, halfway through we'd be huffing and puffing and dying. Ray's running it backwards, laughing at us. He's actually backpedaling, and he's out in front of all of us. We really thought Ray Tolbert had 3 lungs. We said, Ray, you're a freak of nature. You've got 3 lungs. He's smiling. He'd get way out in front of us. He'd turn around and jog backwards and smile and wave. Hey, guys, come and get me. And we're all like, screw you, Tolbert. Get out of here. But he was an amazing athlete, Ray Tolbert. Yeah, definitely.
That's good stuff.
Let's get back to the Sheridan report before we wrap this up. Because Bobby's trying to make some money. Chill out, Steve. But and he's going to be here every day, and we can tell an IU basketball story. But I really like the TSR reports on this day. And every day when you come on, you give your recommended picks. We'll BS with you, Steve, and me. And also, we're going to talk about one of the topics on this day. What is the topic you want to discuss today, Bobby?
Well, one of them that I found and decided to put on there was the Jimmy the Greek part that I put on there. I don't have the report in front of me, but this was the day that he was on the air making those comments. That's correct?
He did. It's the day he made the comments. He did it at lunch. It was an interview.
Okay.
And the comments were actually not very good. I mean, we could read the comments. Steve, read the comments that Jimmy the Greek made.
I didn't get to see. I didn't get the report, so I didn't get copied on it. So what? Who was it that said they're like little monkeys? Was that Cosell?
Wait a second.
That was Cosell that said that.
Howard Cosell said, "Look at that little monkey run."
The monkey go, right. Then what did
wait a second. Because this is the thing. If you look into this, in like a college all-star game, maybe the Hula Bowl or something, 1973 that he did, you remember Mike Adamle, who was a very good college football player, and he said the same thing. Look at that little monkey run. They also came out with home videos with his grandkids playing where he's saying, look at those little monkeys run. I don't think that Howard Cosell, I mean, put it like this. Somebody that was a racist would not have defended Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, the way that Howard Cosell did.
Right.
Jimmy the Greek made comments. He said, and these are Jimmy the Greek's words, not mine. The black is a better athlete to begin with because he's been bred to be that way. Because of his high thighs and big thighs that go up into his back. And they can jump higher, run faster because of their bigger thighs. And he's bred to be the better athlete because he goes back all the way to the Civil War. During the slave trading, the big owner, the slave owner would, his words of course, would breed his big black bull to his big woman so that he could have a big black kid. That's where it all started. He got in trouble for saying that. And then a little bit later in a WRC TV interview, he said that if blacks were to take to coaching, as I think everyone wants them to, there's not going to be anything left for the white people. Snyder, during his remarks, emphasized he was not meaning to be derogatory, but he said the only thing that whites control are the coaching jobs. The black talent is beautiful, it's great, it's out there. The only thing left for the whites is a couple of coaching jobs. He was fired the next day. So,
surprise! Right?
Wow, that was what, 1970? When was that, Mike?
It was 1988.
88.
Think of what that would happen if that was today. Wow, that's
the same thing that happened. He'd got fired.
Yeah.
And the thing is this.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter because I saw a 30 for 30 where I think it was Frank DeFord said that the biggest problem with Jimmy the Greek was the way he grew up. He grew up poor. He didn't have anything. He basically made a living, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, betting on games, betting on political events. Supposedly bet on the Dewey Truman election, which is what got him started. But that he was always trying to prove to other people that he was intelligent. And he said that he thought that those remarks were made because he was trying to prove he was intelligent. Irv Cross, who worked with him, said that he never, ever thought that he was racist. And also, if you watch the interview, the thing I remember is, he was drinking at noon and probably been drinking for a while. And if you listen to the way he talks, the way he slurred his words in his speech, he was drunk. But the thing is this, it doesn't even matter. What he said could have been completely true. And I'm not saying it was, I'm just saying it could have been completely true, and he still should have been fired. Because there comes a point where, even back then, people got fired for stuff like this. And Howard Cosell was allowed to come back to Monday Night Football, but I don't think it was any coincidence that was his last season. And it is really hard to make comments like this to turn off a segment of the populace that gives these ratings. And the sad thing about it is, it's about the only thing anybody remembers about Jimmy the Greek. When you talk Jimmy the Greek, when I typed in Jimmy the Greek, this is the first thing that came up were those comments. And people missed that for 12 years he was on the NFL Today show. I think he started in 76, 77, around there. The NFL Today show was huge. When I was little, I didn't even know NBC had a pregame show because I wanted to watch Phyllis George, Irv Cross, Brent Musburger, Jimmy the Greek, and Jane Kennedy. Now, I wanted to watch Jane Kennedy because she was smoking hot. But she was. So I know Risley thinks less of it. Yeah, she was hot. She was in a movie called Body and Soul with Leon Isaac. I think his last name was Hayes. You ever see that movie, Bobby?
Never saw it, but I have heard of it.
Okay. You watch that movie, and she is the wife of the boxer, and there's a nude scene in it, Bobby. That's all I'm going to say. I highly recommend that nude scene. The movie's terrible, but I highly recommend the nude scene.
Highly recommend that, yeah.
Yeah, but then
Mike,
what? I'm on a tangent.
Go ahead. Finish your story.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Just go.
No, because
I already forgot what I was talking about.
What was it that Tom Brookshire said that got him fired?
Tom Brookshire, I think, got fired for being a drunk, didn't he?
No, I thought he made some comment on TV too at some point in time. That
you might be right.
He said something during a game too. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
I remember he was there on Saturday on a college game or something, and gone on Monday. And he was a well-respected commentator at that era and time too. But he vanished off the face of the earth. I can't remember what he said.
Here we go. Brookshire.
There was some.
Let's see. Okay, he did not get fired for it. Brookshire became the subject of controversy in 1983. He made a remark during an NFL broadcast on an Eagles and Saints game on December the 11th. They noted that an upcoming telecast would have a NCAA men's basketball game between NC State and Louisville. Brookshire said that the players on the Louisville team had a collective IQ of 40.
Yeah.
So
there it is. Yeah.
There you go.
There it is.
Yeah, and that was the end of him.
And you know what?
Years.
That's probably the most derogatory of all of them, truthfully, without merit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no merit in terms of the other two comments that Greek and Cosell made. You know, they're not appropriate. You can't say it, and we all understand that. But what Brookshire said was just stupid.
Yeah, that was really dumb.
But all right, you guys about done here. We're at an hour and 40 minutes. This is our longest show in history, I think.
Well, we got good guests. What do you talk about?
I can't wait to go back and listen to the first hour and 20.
You should, because it was really awesome. And it's been good with you, Bobby. But
I appreciate
it. It kind of ruined it because you came in and said you hadn't listened to the show. Just lie about it. Just come on and say, hey, I was listening to the show today, and it was so awesome, I almost forgot to answer the phone to be on.
Well, because I have my routines, and I listen to you guys later on the podcast.
Bobby.
I like to pull it up. So
all right, we'll let
Bobby,
it go.
I know it's 10:29 out here. You're just getting your ass out of bed. Is what's happening.
Remember,
that's exactly right.
Everybody, go to Sheridan Report. Bobby Sheridan, highly recommend him. If you want to make some money, you got to put your money with Bobby. It doesn't rhyme as good as Sonny when, Ali said it, but I need to come up with a rhyme for that. So make sure you check out the Sheridan Report. Bobby is with us at the end of every telecast to give you a freebie. And once you take his freebie, Bobby will get you hooked.
Bobby, what was your record on the picks we did with you gave us yesterday? What was your record? You were 4-1.
No. Well, we swept the board yesterday. We were 4-0.
So you're 5-0 on the picks you gave out yesterday. You were 5-0, right?
Undefeated.
So we need to keep a running tally, Mike. We need to keep a running tally for him on the picks he gives the show, and just tomorrow we'll ask him what he was. He was 5-0 today. We got to figure out some way to document that. I'll get a notepad here and start putting it down.
Yeah.
So we can just kind of keep a running total of.
So.
You got.
I'm not that smart, Mike.
I know.
I'm not that smart.
On the money line,
I have to write things down.
Wait, can you let him speak? He's trying to talk, and you keep interrupting him.
Sorry.
Well, no, he's not interrupting. I was just going to say that on with the money line wagering, it's a little bit different. You guys understand that? You know, it's you can go 1-on-1 and make money.
Yeah.
With the money line wagering.
Yeah.
So that's But anyhow, no, he's right. Basically, he's with what he's saying is right. We were 5-1 yesterday. We did lose one of the Australian Open matches, but we split the two, which was a profit for those two matches. So
yeah, but I'm just going on picks, so people get understanding. Because to me, it's simplicity. If the guy's right, 5 out of 6 times, it makes me go on and say, okay, I trust this guy's opinion. I'm going to bet how he thinks.
Well,
so that's the point I want to make.
This is the thing. If you're betting him and you're right 65% of the time, you're in pretty good shape, though.
Exactly.
You're in real good shape. That's the goal.
Yeah, you're living down there. You're living down there in Orange County, right, Bobby?
No, I'm in the Inland Empire, which is.
Are you in the Inland Empire? I'm in the North Valley, so.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm in a trailer park in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. We're going to have to wrap this show up because I got to go change the propane tank so we can get some heat in here. My wife's getting a little bit cold, so I'm going to have to get off here. I want to remind everybody, me and Steve will be back. We'll survive in advance tomorrow at noon. You can hear us
what we're talking about
on Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Brian Rauf, Bobby Sheridan, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.